Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm Tony Vizzini. I'm the Provost and Senior Vice President. I'm here to welcome you to the second annual Academic Convocation. This is an event that aims to bring our learning community together to celebrate a new academic year and tie into the ideas and themes from the WSU Reads program. Our common read book this year is The Influencing Machine, Brooke Gladstone on the Media by Brooke Gladstone. And it's being used in a number of classes this year and serves as a foundation for many of our programs that will unfold over the coming months. This year, we challenge you to find positive ways that you can influence the world around you. I know that many of you are watching this on a streaming video. I want to welcome you to this as well. Special shout out to our PA students in O-Town. So as we begin our program, I would like to welcome President Bardo to the stage to kick off our event. Help me welcome President Bardo.
Dr. Vizzini, thank you very much. It's great to see this good crowd in here. Many years ago, I used to teach in this room. And when it's full, it's a serious class. For how many of you is this your first semester at Wichita State? Would you raise your hands? Okay. Woohoo! For those of you that are first-year students, just so you know, you are part of the largest class in the history of the university. We're really excited about that. And unless we've really messed up our data, our enrollment's going to look pretty good this fall. I want to talk with you, and the reason I asked about whether this is your first semester at Wichita State, I want to talk to you a little bit about who you are and what it means to be a college student. And I want to talk to you just a minute about why Wichita State can give you an opportunity that you probably may not have thought fully about yet. If you came from another university, if you came from high school, you bring some kind of a track record with you. And I used to tell students to kind of close your eyes and think about all the things you did, all the things you were, who you went out with, what you did when you weren't studying, what classes you liked, what music you listened to, what video games you play. Take all of that and put it in a little box in your mind. And in your mind, slide it under your bed. Those are really important things. They are who you were. But they don't have to be who you are. And they don't have to be where you're going. Now, for some of you, they will be. And that's terrific. But for others, this is a time to start anew. It's a time to think differently about what's possible. And so think about that little box. It's an important box, and it'll be important to you the rest of your life. Keep it safe, keep it in your memory. But just remember that whatever happened before you came here really doesn't have to determine what happens while you're here. You have opportunity to make yourself who you want to be. Now, the second thing, universities are a place of challenge, and that's not comfortable for a lot of people. They like going through life, reading their own social media so that everybody agrees with them, and if they meet somebody that disagrees with them, it's a traumatic and difficult day. That is the exact opposite of what a university is. From the founding of the University of Paris and the University of Bologna, back in the Middle Ages, universities have been about wrestling with ideas, hearing people with whom you disagree, hearing things that offend you, and figuring out why they offend you. No one's asking you to change who you are. No one's asking you to believe differently. What a university is about is causing you to reflect on the meaning of what you're doing. So if you want to be an accountant, that's super. But you're not going to account 24 hours a day. You're going to do other things with your life. And so a university should teach you how to be a great accountant. If we aren't doing that, we're really messing up. But we should also teach you how to be around people that don't look like you. We should also teach you about how to deal with people who don't sound like you, care about the same things you do, or believe exactly the opposite of what you believe. Not asking you to change anything about who you are, but we are asking you to wrestle with ideas, because out of that wrestling with ideas, something great will happen. Some of you will change your majors. I thought I was going to be a dentist. That worked. You can tell, right? I took a class because I had to have a gen ed requirement filled. I was in line back when we lined up to get our classes. And I turned to a friend of mine and I said, I need another social science. And he said, oh, why don't you take sociology? And I said, what's that? And he said, oh, they kind of talk about people in groups and so what they do. And I thought, well, why not? That's as good as anything. 6 years later, I popped out with a PhD in sociology and became a professor. Never heard of it when I got in line to get my courses. So you're going to be challenged in areas you never heard of before. You're going to be expected to hear things you've never heard before. And not asking you to believe them. We're not asking you to agree with them. But we are asking you to give others the right to speak and to be able to reflect on, do I believe that or do I not? The essence of a university is not what degrees we offer, what courses we have, what departments we have, what colleges we have. The essence of a university is the ability to wrestle with ideas, to think, to try, to explore, to grab that thing you never thought you could grab, and to wrestle it to the ground and understand it. And out of that, you'll learn a lot more about who you are, what you value as a human being, and you will become a much better contributor to your family, to your community, to society, but even more than that, when you look back on your life, you'll be able to say, I mattered. It made a difference that I was here and that I did a good job as an accountant or an engineer or a social worker or a social reformer or a physician or a lawyer. It doesn't matter. What matters is you can put that little box under your bed, pull it out every once in a while, remember who you were, but think about the opportunity you have while you're at Wichita State to make yourself into who you can be. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's why we have academic convocation, to bring people together, to think about really critical issues of our day and how they relate to education. You have come to a wonderful university. I taught here early in my career. My wife has 3 degrees from Wichita State. And the first chance I had to come back, I grabbed it and was so glad to do so. You know, you look at the morning, it's absolutely gorgeous. We got the largest freshman class in our history. We've got students all over the campus. We're in a new athletic league. We're studying. We're doing things that are exciting. You know what? It is a great day to be a shocker. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, President Bardo, for being the educator that you are. We look forward to another great year in Shocker Nation with you. Each year, we recognize faculty for setting the Shocker standard for teaching and research activities at WSU. On the screen, you will see the names of our 9 faculty members who were honored during the 2017 Faculty Awards last May. Faculty award winners, please stand as I read your name to be recognized, and please let us hold our applause until the end. The Academy for Effective Teaching Award, Ramazan Asmatulu, Gayla Lofink. Excellent Award for Community Research, Tricia Self. Excellence in Research, Ramazan Asmatulu. Excellence in Teaching, Kim Clough. Faculty Risk Taker, Karaja Saeed, Jingjun Zhu. Leadership in the Advancement of Teaching Award, Jerry Markova. Young Faculty Risk Taker, Ali Islami. Young Faculty Scholar, Ezra Buyaktakin. Thank you for your outstanding work in your field and with our learning community. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Kim Clough to the stage to introduce our first student speaker. Please help me welcome Dr. Kim Clough.
Thank you. Alongside of our outstanding faculty are students who are positively contributing to Shocker Nation and beyond. This year, part of the program includes a student spotlight for which we ask students to submit a story on how they are influencing the world around them. We have two incredible stories that we'll be sharing with you today. Our first speaker will be Subash Bhandari. He is a sophomore pursuing a major in biomedical engineering with a minor in chemistry. He is 19 years old, from Nepal, and is the first in his family to go to college. He is a member of the National Society of Collegiate Scholars and a Geico Scholar. He's an engineering undergraduate peer partner, or an UP mentor, is involved with Biomedical Engineering Society, and serves as the vice president of the Wichita State table tennis team. Subash has been actively involved in undergraduate research since he arrived here at WSU. He's been working in the biomedical sensors, imaging, modeling, engineering laboratory. During this past summer, he was designing biosensors to detect the presence of melanoma skin cancer. He has started working on making benchtop models for the detection of biofluid shifts in the brain. Please help me welcome Subash to the stage.
It's a story dated 12 months ago, but still resonates in my mind. It's a story of struggle. The struggle of a little poor boy who got bullied in school simply because he was small and his parents were not financially strong. The boy thinks and rethinks every day to kiss a path he had chosen to be a biomedical engineer so that one day he can save the lives of innocent people dying back in his country who simply die because of lack of medical equipment or the inability to afford them. But his parents think more, less about themselves, but more about collecting money to send their son to the United States of America. The day finally comes. The boy gets in an airplane for the first time to fly halfway across the globe, loses his phone, misses his flight in London, does not get his baggage in Chicago, and spends an hour crying because he does not know how to put the next piece in the puzzle. Someone was supposed to pick the boy at 3:40 p.m., but they returned when the boy didn't show up till 7 o'clock. In fact, the boy didn't show up until midnight. It's in fact a story of that last guy who got lost at Chicago airport, but finally ends up having a dinner at a house with people from Germany and Turkey. I still remember those nights when I used to hold my father's index finger way back from school to home. The walk through a small forest back in my country would take 20 minutes. And those 20 minutes were when I had to answer my dad what 20 multiplied by 12 was and what the longest river of the world was. Those were the same moments when my father told me to act strong and responsible at any point in life. My father's lessons have really motivated me to dream big, no matter what our financial situation is. I love what I do and think of influencing other people through my decisions. I am truthful to myself because a sense of strength that I feel inside my soul after being nice to people really motivates me in doing something new and great. I got involved on campus. I think of participating in every activities and opportunities, no matter if I'm capable of or not. You have not noticed so far, but it's a story of that last guy who comes to WSU on the 21st of August 2016, emails a biomedical professor on the 22nd, talks and gets interviewed by the professor on the 23rd, and starts the path of innovation as an undergraduate research assistant to develop the presence of melanoma cancer on skin on the 27th. As it may seem difficult, as an international student, the boy gets his first paycheck from WSU in September, starts getting involved on campus in October, makes into Shocker Speak Out in November, gets a 4.0 in December, participates in the USATT table tennis tournament in February, and sits in front of Chick-fil-A thinking about writing an application for the academic convocation in March. It's a story about me, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same story that didn't let me spend a single week on the beaches of Florida or on the mountains of Colorado during summer. Instead, I experienced how it feels to walk under 105 degrees of sun for 30 minutes to the lab and 30 minutes back home every day, including the weekends. Getting hands into expensive biomedical equipment and doing research takes a lot of time commitment. And here's the message that I give to everyone in here. If I know of something that can change you, it's your willpower. It's the hard work and dedication you put in to accomplish something you really want. It's never too early to begin things. I am in here for a reason, so you are. Do you know what influences the world? Let's not over-exaggerate. Begin with something small. Influence a single person near you to do new things, to be innovative, to influence other people, help them build connection with people. I inspire my fellow mates to get involved with research on campus. I want every person to believe that everything is possible in this world. I suggest people to stop complaining about things because life owes us nothing. We have to create things. But do you know what? Begin from something small. Meditate every morning, speak politely with people because that's what changes other people. It changes yourself. It changes your thoughts, it changes your words and your actions, and that is what melts people's heart. I'm very fortunate today. Today's my dad's birthday. I never got a chance to wish my dad a happy birthday face to face because I lived in a boarding school since I was studying in grade 3. I would like to wish my dad a happy birthday through this platform. Happy birthday, Dad. Thanks for being a role model in my life. You were so great. Do you know what? I still remember your bye-bye kiss and the words you whispered in my ears. I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. And I do, I understand. Yes, I'm doing great things in here. This is my story, a story of struggle and also a story of hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Subash. Your accomplishments are incredible, and we look forward to seeing more from you in the field of biomedical engineering and chemistry. Our next speaker is Vanessa Rails. She's a Wichita State graduate student pursuing a master's of social work. She is the former president of the Student Organization of Social Work and former member of the Diversity Task Force. She's also a big in the Big Brother, Big Sisters program and the unit director of Boys and Girls Club of South Central Kansas Opportunity Drive location here in Wichita, Kansas. She loves the work that she does and loves being part of such a wonderful movement. Please help me welcome Vanessa to the stage.
Thank you. Life is full of positive experiences. Some we can recall in detail, some we can't, but in one way or another, they influence the way that we think or act. One positive experience can change a life. So what is a positive experience? It's a moment generated by a combination of our talents, beliefs, and passion. I remember sitting in a diversity class my first year here at Wichita State. The professor asked for volunteers, and I was a transfer student determined to step out of my comfort zone, so I raised my hand. She explained that she was going to ask a series of questions on diversity, and we each would have to answer. I was about fifth in line, so I had plenty of time for that panic to set in. I was experiencing a level of vulnerability that I had never experienced before, kind of like right now. After I spoke, something amazing happened, though. People clapped. In a room full of strangers, my own personal story allowed me to connect so quickly, and I felt supported. I remember leaving class thinking, wow, that was one positive experience. Throughout middle school and high school, I was bullied, and because of that, I never really felt like I had a voice. After that experience, I started to believe that not only did my voice matter, but it could make a difference. And I decided to act. Aristotle says, where your talents and the needs of the world cross, there lies your vocation. Simply meaning, in order to find our calling, all we have to do is figure out what our natural abilities can answer the call of someone in need. One evening, some friends and I made burritos for those experiencing homelessness. We were in downtown Wichita handing them out. We took time to hear their stories, their setbacks, their hopes and dreams. We used nothing more than our time and privilege to show people who are often overlooked that they too matter. I remember one woman coming up to me and I handed her a burrito and her eyes filled up with tears. She explained to me that she didn't know where her next meal was going to come from. And she thanked me for giving her hope, something I feel that we should all experience. Another experience was a debate night featuring some members from our local Boys and Girls Club. Myself and a handful of WSU students helped teens prepare, learning the fundamentals of debate, working and researching on their topics and their presentation. And the debate was held here at Wichita State. For many of these students, it was their first time stepping foot on this campus and speaking in front of an audience. I was sitting with one of the members after, and I'll never forget what they said to me. Miss Vanessa, I never thought that I was important enough for people to know my name. I never thought that I could do something like that. I hope I get to do it again. That one positive experience awakened a belief in that member that he didn't know he had. Think of the many positive experiences you could create. You don't have to have a title or a lot of money. All you have to have is the desire to make a change and the belief that you can put those ideas into action. You matter. You can change a life. Ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And do it. Many of you are familiar with the term mission statement. It's a statement that captures goals and philosophies. And I challenge you to create a mission statement for your life. And I'd like to leave you with mine. I'm living with a purpose that's bigger than I am. I'm here to advocate and empower individuals and communities, not for a paycheck, but because it's my passion. One person can make a difference. One person can be the reason why someone decided not to give up. I want to be, and I can be that person. I'm bold enough to say I can, and I'm humble enough to say I have a lot to learn. I surround myself with people I want to be like, I ask questions and make mistakes, and always do more than what is required. I have learned that in life, it's the things that the world cannot take away that matter the most. That's the love we share, give, receive, and the positive experiences that we create. That's my mission statement, and I challenge you to create your own. Thank you. Thank you. Brooke Gladstone is a Peabody Award-winning journalist. She's the co-host and managing editor of On the Media. Prior to that, she was a Moscow-based reporter for NPR, its first media reporter, senior editor of NPR's All Things Considered, and senior editor of the Weekend Edition with Scott Simon. She's also the author of A Trouble with Reality, a reminiscence of moral panic in our time, and The Influence Machine, a media manifesto in graphic form, listed among the top books of 2011 by The New Yorker and among the 10 masterpieces of graphic nonfiction by The Atlantic. Please help me welcome Brooke Gladstone.
Welcome to college, everyone. Well, welcome back. You know, I realized watching those extraordinary speeches that I was asked about video, and I said I didn't have any, but Professor Ray, the photography teacher, and my daughter took me to the rodeo bar last night, and I got on the bull, and they filmed it, and I realized I could have put that up there, but it would have been a short video. These are amazing times we live in. The more dramatic among them might call it a clash of civilizations. Certainly the war we seem to be in with Mother Nature could make it seem almost apocalyptic. But I like to take the long view. Humans, they're durable. Durable yet self-destructive. We live in fear of what we don't understand, the unfamiliar, the new. We live in fear of our technology because it's evolved faster than we have. And it always has. Around 370 BC, Plato tells us that Socrates disdained writing because it destroyed the memory. In the 1500s, less than a century after the invention of the Gutenberg press, one scholar complained about the dangerous, the harmful abundance of books. In 1883, experts condemned foolish parents with overtaxing their children's minds with reading, especially girls' minds, because they could go insane. I'm not kidding. You'll see it in The Influencing Machine. In the 1930s, radio drama was said to induce disabling nightmares in children. Television, we all remember, or some of us will, was called a vast wasteland, a boob tube. Frankly, you'll see in the book that I lean toward the wisdom of the late lamented Douglas Adams, the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, who predicted the smartphone decades before it existed. He came up with a set of rules that describe our reaction to technology. 1, anything that is in the world when you're born is normal and ordinary and just a natural part of the way the world works. 2, anything that's invented between when you're 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary, and you can probably get a career out of it. 3, anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order of things. Of course, the internet, amplified by the ease and the ubiquity of the smartphone, has escalated that fear, especially in those of us over 35. I mean, come on. It spawns monsters, bullies and predators, stalkers and scam artists, and legions of innocent victims. It degrades personal relationships. It shreds the social fabric. It suppresses empathy and causes ADHD. And the children. How do we protect the children? And all of that is true. But it also offers entry into the accumulated knowledge of the world, the wisdom of the ages, encounters and experiences once unimaginable. It provides anyone with the chance to participate in the rich creations of countless hive minds, for those who like that sort of thing. Ultimately, what the internet does is make us more of what we already were. For the bitter or spiteful, it provides an opportunity for even more malice and aggression. For the innocent or heedless, danger lurks behind every click. For the curious, oh, what wonders there are. Humans are a durable species, but humanity, our individual humanity, is fragile. We know all about the neuroscience that describes how technology, the constant stimulation it offers, the endless interruptions, the utter lack of downtime, of quiet, of boredom, can interfere with our ability to imagine, to ponder, to plan, to empathize. Science tells us that technology is rewiring our brains. And since our ancestors first picked up a club, it always has. The problem, you see, doesn't start with our smartphones. The problem begins in our heads, the way we're wired from the moment we're born. So, cast your mind back a mere 7 months after the presidential election. Half the country feared we might succumb to horrors not experienced in our lifetime. They blamed the other half, also the media, especially cable. George Orwell's dystopian fantasy, 1984, was flying off the shelves. A bestseller again, 70 years after it was first penned. Written in 1948, after the horrors of Nazi devastation and Soviet ascendancy, he wrote a cautionary tale of fascism in its most brutal form. In his world, no one was free of prying eyes. Love was a crime. Illegal thoughts were prosecuted and crushed. History was rewritten daily, and citizens were fed a steady diet of lies and absurdities that changed on the whim of Big Brother. But there was another earlier dystopian fantasy written in the previous decade, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and it painted a very different picture of a possible future. In that world, people were genetically engineered for their roles in life. They were well-fed, complacent, and pacified on a steady diet of happy drugs and massive government-sanctioned orgies. Before the internet we know today, that is in 1985, media critic Neil Postman wrote his great work, Amusing Ourselves to Death, and in it, he compared Orwell's vision in 1984 to Huxley's Brave New World. He wrote, "What Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared were those who, what Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who wanted to read one. Orwell feared that the truth would be concealed from us. Huxley feared that the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared that we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared that we would become a trivial culture. Huxley remarked that the civil libertarians and rationalists, ever on the alert to oppose tyranny, failed to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distractions. In 1984, Huxley added, people are controlled by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, they are controlled by inflicting pleasure. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. It's so easy to amuse ourselves to death, metaphorically speaking, because our brains are body parts and we're drawn to what feels good. Distraction feels good, too good. Here's the first study I'll cite, and like most, it involves undergrads like yourselves, because universities conduct most of these studies, and Hey, you're there, and usually they pay. 3-4 years ago, a couple of researchers, one from the University of Virginia, one from Harvard, asked 55 students to sit alone for 6 to 15 minutes in a sparsely furnished, windowless room and to entertain themselves with their thoughts. This comes, by the way, from Manoush Zomorodi's brand new book, Bored and Brilliant. Okay, so once inside the room, they were exposed to different stimuli like music and pictures and given mild electric shocks. Then the researchers asked them if they would pay to avoid being shocked. Not surprisingly, most of them, 42 out of 55, said they would. Now here's where things get interesting. After this conversation, each student was asked to spend the next 15 minutes alone just thinking. They could press a button to give themselves a shock if they wanted to. Did they? Yeah, they did. Even people who said that they would pay to avoid it. A third of the men and a quarter of the women were apparently so unnerved by the boredom that they preferred the distraction of a shock. One participant shocked himself 190 times. Recent data suggests that people are shifting their attention every 45 seconds when they work online. An email from a boss or a friend, a colleague poking in her head with a quick question, maybe a pre-planned limited peek at Facebook. But here's the thing. Let's say that the interruptions wane a little. It's not so busy. You have a little blessed quiet. You know what happens? You interrupt yourself at the same rate. Interruptions are self-perpetuating. They're a rhythm. They get into your brain. Suddenly it feels weird when you aren't interrupted. Now the thing is that once, not that long ago, half the time we spent awake was spent daydreaming. That seems like a lot, but think about the time you aren't working. You're waiting in line for something. Maybe you're sitting in the doctor's office, or you're on public transportation, or maybe you've just finished one task and you're pausing before you do another one, and you're waiting for the water to boil. Countless things, technical things that you do in your life that don't take brain power, well, they take up about half your day. Once that time was spent daydreaming, now that is no longer the case. There's a lot of research that demonstrates that's no longer the case. And it sounds like good, right? Daydreaming's a waste, but it's not. There's also a lot of research that demonstrates, as Ferris Jabber wrote in The New Yorker, that mental downtime, I mean blank time, I mean bored time, helps the brain rehearse what has been recently learned. It replenishes our reserves of attention and delivers some great creative insights. I know that even when I get stuck on writing a radio script, I have to sometimes just go outside and stand there with nothing. I have nothing in my mind except I have a pad in my hand. And I just try and clear things for a second. And it's amazing. It's as if those ideas are there. But I am a queen of distraction. I have 8 games of Words with Friends going simultaneously at every moment. So, boredom. It feels like crap, but we often discover that a solution to an unsolved problem happens precisely when we let our attention wander away from it. Jabber wrote, "We could try to navigate that inner world that circumvents the unpleasant and irksome, or we could face the looking glass, press through, and wander." Now, this entering class, I'm assuming, can't remember a time, at least since you were old enough to own a smartphone, when all those little slices in your day, waiting in line or on hold or whatever it would be, couldn't be filled with distraction. You may never have actually known how it really feels to be bored. You know about dopamine, our most beloved neurotransmitter, variously called the pleasure chemical, reward juice, the expectation molecule, the motivator, the mother of invention. We really like dopamine. Even rats like it. when they can self-administer it right to their brains. Well, that's kind of what happens when we get Facebook likes or the ping of a text. It's novelty, it's expectation, it releases a little squirt of dopamine. But I recently learned we only have a limited amount of dopamine. We waste it on stupid stuff, we don't have it when we need it. Like when we lie to ourselves, very important. And here's where I turn the corner. The world is too vast, too complex, frankly, too incomprehensible to grasp. We are constructed, we are wired to filter so we can function. We have to filter or we freeze and die. Put simply, we cannot know the world. But we have to live somewhere, so we construct cozier, more comprehensible versions, move in and hunker down. We make our worlds. We impose order on it. It may not be the world we want it to be, but it is the world we expect it to be. And to preserve its integrity, to keep it whole, we will ourselves to believe the illusion of cause and effect where it doesn't exist, or deny it where it does, all in order to preserve our handmade reality and to keep whole the web of beliefs that sustain it. Example, in 2012, Australian psychologist Stefan Lewandowski reported on a survey of more than 1,000 readers of climate blogs and found that there was a strong correlation in belief in the free market and climate change denial, and denial that HIV causes AIDS, and denial that smoking causes cancer. Deny science, strengthen your hold on total belief in the free market, preserve your web of beliefs. Another example, in an fMRI study, Emory University professor Drew Weston used brain scans to see what happens inside a voter's head when confronted with evidence that their candidate or the opposing candidate was lying. Turns out that when partisans were confronted with the lies of the opposing candidate, they didn't have a problem. The reasoning parts of their brain lit up, and they were calm. But when their preferred candidate was presented as a liar, all hell broke loose. The first thing that lit up was a series of negative emotion circuits activated by threat. You could see it all over their brains, he said. Then you saw the part of the brain called the anterior cingulate come alive. That's the part that deals with conflict. They were engulfed in conflict. They were trying to figure a way out. And then, once they had figured out a way to explain it, to resolve it, to lie to themselves. You saw activation in parts of the brain that are rich in neurotransmitters involved in reward. The circuits activated, just like the way junkies get their fix. And they got this huge blast of dopamine. And I asked him, you mean the same thing you get when you take Coke? And he said, exactly right. There was no reasoning at all going on. We're wired to lie to yourself. This is what you're up against. I have one more example involving college students. Back in 1967, more than 100 undergrads, not unlike yourselves. In a series of experiments, they were given headphones, and they were asked to listen to tape-recorded messages that disputed the link between smoking and cancer. The recordings were, however, they were full of static, but they could push a button that would relieve the static for a few seconds. The researchers found over and over again that smokers pressed more than non-smokers when the message argued against the link between smoking and cancer. And they pressed it less often than non-smokers when the taped message affirmed the cancer link. You don't think you do that? You don't think every single one of us does that, I don't know, 12 times a day, 100 times a day? We live in a continuous filter. It's behavior bred in the blood and the bone and the brain. We can fight it if we're mindful. And I think that ultimately, whatever your goal for the future may be, this place where you sit offers you your best shot at it. I mean, you could ask, why bother? But you see, assuming you only go around once, your future depends on it. And I don't mean how much money you make, but how you evolve, how strong your humanity is, how you can strengthen it. Also, our future depends on it because we have entered a world when all of our little handmade worlds, millions of worlds, seem to have crashed, collided, and burned. We listen to our fellow Americans and we think they speak in tongues. We can't understand them. We don't want to. Perhaps we need to be bored. When your phone is off, you notice things. You see someone, you might imagine what they're thinking. When your phone is off, you weave fantasies, make plans, have ideas, because you're bored. Now, there are schools called the Waldorf schools, for instance, back to nature places, hands-on, activity-based learning, very popular in Silicon Valley. People from Hewlett-Packard, Google, Yahoo, and Apple all send their kids there. They aren't allowed computers until the 7th grade. Steve Jobs didn't let his kids play with the iPad. Your phone is like your baby. It beeps and whines. It needs immediate attention. It needs you right now. It's also like your mommy. It's a pacifier. It knows you better than anyone. It answers all your questions. It soothes you. You're stronger than that. It's a cool tool. It's an essential tool. It's not your friend. All I'm saying is boredom can feel miserable at first, but it's necessary because the one vital thing your phone can supply is true self-knowledge, and you have to be alone for that. And when you are truly alone, you see more clearly where you are, where you could be, and who you could be. Right now, amidst all this stimulation, right here, this new climate of colleagues and companions and the novelty of learning things you never knew, you can fill that quiet time, those slices of downtime, with some fascinating speculation. Your random musings, your daydreams will be so rich. Your life could be so full if you give it a chance. And let's face it, we're counting on you to help us get out of our silos, our echo chambers, and help us find a way to a more sustainable reality. And I speak especially now to the most comfortable among you, and also the least comfortable among you, because you've built the strongest private worlds, and you have the most to lose if they go down. But you also have the most to bring, in some ways, to the table, while the rest of us struggle along. So, hey, help us out, okay? And thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brooke, for your remarks and thought-provoking presentation today. And I also want to thank Subash and Vanessa. The three of you have talked about what I heard, growth. And Convocation is a good time to think about that future year, but how we grow more know about ourselves and the world. And yes, I do believe that each of us individually can make a difference. So thank you all three for your remarks today. We are excited, Brooke, to be incorporating your book into our classes and campus activities this year. Let's give one more round of applause to Brooke Gladstone. This morning, we will be distributing lapel pins to everyone attending the program. The pins commemorate this annual tradition that celebrates our community of learning. We hope they remind you of the positive contributions you are expected to make and are already making in Shocker Nation and beyond. While distributing the pins, we will show a video that illustrates the engagement of our students in applied learning activities, which are important elements of our university's strategic plan. These photos were submitted by your faculty and staff, so at this time, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen. What a great representation we have had today of students, faculty, and staff all working together to make Wichita State a great place to be. I'd like to invite the a cappella, choir, and concert chorale to take their place and officially close the program with the alma mater. You can find the lyrics on the card that accompanied your pin. After the alma mater, we will invite you to exit out the main entrance where you will find refreshments and Brooke Gladstone, who would be happy to sign your book and chat with you. Please stand and join the choir as they lead us in singing the alma mater.